Your paycheck says a number, but that number used to be something you could hold in your hand, taste on your tongue, or lead out to the pasture. The word salary comes from the Latin salarium, and salarium comes from sal, salt. Roman soldiers were paid, at least in part, with salt, or with money specifically allocated to buy it. Either way, salt was so essential, so universally needed, that it became the unit by which human labor was measured. Think about that the next time you check your payslip. But salt was just one chapter in a much longer story. For most of human history, money wasn't metal. It wasn't paper. It was whatever a community agreed had value, and the list is stranger and more wonderful than you might expect. Let's start not with coins, with grain. In ancient Mesopotamia, the world's first cities were also the world's first payroll departments. The temples of Sumer paid their workers in barley, not symbolically, actually. You showed up, you worked, you received a measured ration of grain. Laborers got enough to eat. Skilled workers got more. Senior administrators got significantly more. This was the world's first wage system. And barley was perfect for it. Everyone needed it, and you couldn't fake it. A bushel of barley was a bushel of barley. It had undeniable value because it kept you alive. The clay tablets of Mesopotamia are full of these records. Rations for weavers, for canal diggers, for the women who processed wool in the great temple workshops. 4,000 years before the first payslip, scribes were carefully recording who got what and why. Now move west to Rome. Rome built the ancient world's most sophisticated military machine, and that machine needed to be paid. A Roman soldier received a salarium tied, at least in part, to salt. Why salt? Because in a world without refrigeration, salt was life itself. It preserved meat through winter. It made food safe on long campaigns. Entire roads were built to move it. The Via Salaria, the salt road, ran from the Adriatic coast into Rome. Control salt, and you controlled survival. A soldier who was worth his salt. That phrase is still with us. It began on the march routes of the Roman legions, where a man's value was literally measured in one of the most precious substances on earth. Now cross the Sahara. In the great trading empires of West Africa, Mali, Songhai, the kingdoms that made Mansa Musa the richest man who ever lived, salt was worth its weight in gold, literally. The Sahara produces vast deposits of rock salt in places like Tagaza, a city built entirely from salt blocks, where even the houses were made of it. The forest kingdoms to the south had gold, but almost no salt. The result was one of history's great trading symmetries. The north had what the south needed, the south had what the north wanted, and the Sahara caravan routes were the veins through which both flowed. Salt blocks were cut to standard sizes, traded at known rates, accepted across vast distances. Heavy, inconvenient, occasionally licked by camels, but money. Now travel east to China. Long before paper money, the Chinese used silk as currency. Bolts of silk paid taxes, settled debts, compensated officials. Standardized, durable, universally valued both within China and along the Silk Road, where it was the most prized trade good in the known world. And then there were the shells. Cowrie shells, small, smooth, naturally uniform, became one of the most widespread currencies in human history. Used in China for over 1,000 years before coins replaced them. They traveled into Southeast Asia, across the Indian Ocean, deep into Africa. A single shell species became a global currency simply because it was portable, hard to fake, and universally recognized. In North America, wampum, beads carved from quahog clam shells, became so embedded in trade that early European colonists adopted it themselves as legal tender. A purple bead was worth more than a white one. Value encoded in color, in craftsmanship, in history. Barley, salt, silk, cowrie shells, wampum. All of them solving the same ancient problem. How do you move value between people who don't fully trust each other, across distances that make direct exchange impossible? The answer was always the same. Find something everyone needs. Make it hard to fake. Give it a form that travels, and trust each other enough to use it. Every one of those things is still true of the money in your pocket. The form changed. The logic never did. I'm Pecunia historian. The history of money is the history of everything.